The death of Iran's president revealed a secret that was being kept from the whole world. And guess what, folks? Today, we're going to talk about what that secret is. All right, folks, let's get into this one. I have to tell you, you just can't make this stuff up. Now, I want to tell you something that I think is really important, and I have to premise what I'm about to say by encouraging you guys to go back to the video that I did on Sunday night, which is actually Monday morning at 3:30 a.m. I had to wait until all the information came out from the media, where I gave you a general update as into what had happened with the president and the foreign minister of Iran. Now, all of this is really, really important because you need to understand the foundation of what sits and how things are going to be affected overall, and some of the geopolitical implications of the death of the foreign minister and the president. And of course, we're beginning to see a lot of those things materialize. If you have not seen that video, I would highly recommend that you watch that video. It's on the YouTube channel. As well, I have a couple of other videos that I have done on the subject of Iran that I will include in the description of this particular video, and I'll also pin them to the comments because you need to look at some of these things to understand the geopolitics, and I think they would all be very useful. By the way, many of these videos will feature speeches that actually came from Raisi and even Abdollahian, and there's a lot to actually be heard here and to understand and to recognize. So go over that material. I think it'll be useful, and I think it will help you to better understand what we're talking about here. Now, I have to tell you, I mentioned in the video that I did on Monday that there would be a materialization of things that fall in the category of unintended consequences. I also said that we would start to see things materialize that we were not aware of because the secrecy of those things that are being kept from the whole world is solely dependent upon the fact that certain lives are still intact. And when the foreign minister and the president, who are the front-facing people of Iran, die, then many of the things that are going in the background or going on in the background are going to surface. And folks, we are seeing things being surfaced right now. Things that we were not aware of, things that people were not discussing because they were kept on the down low. And this story speaks of one of those things. Look what it says. It says, secret Iran-US talks on Gaza war undermined by Raisi death. Okay, understand this for a second, folks. There's already a problem with this headline when you recognize the fact that the United States has entered into secret talks with Iran over the war in Gaza. I think it's particularly astounding, hypocritical, foolish, arrogant, evil, outright wicked to think about the fact that the United States, this current regime, has chosen to enter into secret discussions with Iran concerning Gaza after Iran launched the single greatest and most large-scale attack ever against Israel in recent days. Not days, heck, recent years. Let me just take this one step further. We have never seen in the history of the Middle East any such large-scale attack on Israel. We've never seen more missiles launched. We've never seen more targeted drone attacks, all in one shot by an organized declaration of war by one nation unilaterally against another. We've never seen it, and yet Gaza and what's happened in Gaza is fully created by those terrorists who created that situation. Iran fed them in doing that very thing, yet the United States is having secret conversations with Iran, the people who actually created this problem, the people who continue to push this problem. Folks, that is exactly what's going on. Look at this. This is absolutely crazy. And I'm telling you, folks, this is real. Like, this isn't something that is not, happen. Like, this is completely real. This is not fictitious, okay? This is completely crazy, okay? Look at this. And by the way, before I read this article, understand if you've not made the connection yet, and some people might not make the connection, and I don't blame them for not making the connection because there's some real complicated things here. Understand that the only reason why Iran would engage in a conversation with the United States of America, or the United States of America would engage in a conversation with Iran regarding something going on in Gaza, is to make multilateral attempts to de-seat the current leaders that are in Israel. This was an attempt on removing Netanyahu from the place of authority. It's removing the people that are actually seeking to fight this war and to protect the people of Israel. This is no joke. This is exactly what's going on. And they are seeking to undermine any effort that Israel is making to protect itself and remaining in a place where they continue to walk with the function of self-determination, which they are fully within their rights to be able to have. Folks, this is evil stuff, okay? By the way, before I read the first sentence of this article, you can already see how completely twisted some of the sentiments are, even of the writings that we see in this actual article, okay? It's completely crazy. Like, for example, they're going to use the term good progress. Good progress? You mean it's good progress to actually engage in an enemy of the state in order to undermine the efforts of your only ally in the region? I mean, it's ridiculous, but let me read the paragraph. It says, secret talks between Iran and the United States in Oman were making good progress, but have now been jeopardized by the sudden death of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi and his foreign minister. Brett McCurk, U.S. President Joe Biden's senior Middle East advisor, held indirect negotiations earlier this month with Ali Bagheri Khani, Iran's point man for negotiations with the West, according to 3 Iranian resources close to the talks. It's just, I'm sorry, but that's just disgusting, okay? But let's go on with the article. The talks took place in Muscat, which hosted secret meetings between Tehran and Washington a decade ago that led to the 2013 JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action nuclear agreement, which, by the way, let me just say this about the JCPOA. The JCPOA is not worth the toilet paper that is in the room, in the toilets that were actually used in the negotiations of the agreement. It is a pile of garbage agreement that gives Iran the right to be able, through a sunset clause, to develop nuclear weapons and destroy the lives of Jewish people, American people, and everybody around them that does not agree in their flavor of Islam. That is the truth, folks. I just wanted to say that. It's ridiculous. We were wrong being in Oman negotiating the JCPOA, and we are certainly wrong being in Oman right now seeking to negotiate this agreement. By the way, this is really interesting. The person who orchestrated the agreement, the secret talks that created the JCPOA, is Barack Obama. He's the one that did it. Isn't that a coincidence, folks? Look at the context of the decision being made to go back to Oman and make this agreement. Biden, I guarantee you, is still receiving direction from Obama, and make no mistake about it, this is an extension of his presidency, okay? I'm just telling you that right now. Obama's presidency. Look, there's too many commonalities that exist here, and I'm not going to even get into this, but this is absolutely crazy. It's hypocritical. It's wrong. They are completely orchestrating a mechanism that disables the Israelis at their knees. It's crazy. They're working against Israel. Completely wrong. The article goes on to say they were the first round of discussions between the U.S. and Iran since January. I mean, this is crazy, folks, okay? One source close to the talks, which were first reported by Axios on Friday, told Middle East Eye that this is, by the way, Middle East Eye is the news organization that we pulled this article from. So let me start that again. One source close to the talks were first reported by Axios on Friday, told Middle East Eye that discussions between Bagheri Khani and McCurk were progressing well and were close to reaching some sort of an agreement. I wonder what that agreement would have been. I mean, honestly. What kind of an agreement can you come to with Iran regarding Gaza without having Israel at the talks? Tell me, the people who are the fathers of these terrorists, the people who support and fund these terrorists, the United States of America is going to come to an agreement with them outside of Israel? Oh, my goodness. Folks, let me tell you something. Iran has just found out after messing around. They've been messing around, and now they've been finding out. And folks, I'm going to tell you this right now. The United States of America, after having messed around, is about to find out. This is crazy. You do not mess with God's chosen people. But this is, I mean, look, what we're doing is just wrong. They're supposed to be our ally. And look at what we're doing here. It's just crazy. But look what it goes on to say. Bagheri Khani was deputy foreign minister at the time, but following the death of Hussein Amir-Abdollahian in the helicopter crash that killed Raisi on Sunday, he is now the acting foreign minister, okay? Which, by the way, he's also not a good guy and has direct ties with the IRGC, just like Amir-Abdollahian, which, by the way, Abdollahian was the highest ranking member of the IRGC, although nobody wants to really talk about that, right? Look at this next paragraph, and this paragraph is absolutely appalling. This paragraph makes me sick to my stomach. It is so absolutely evil. This is so ridiculous. Look what it says. It says, the talks focused on 3 subjects: a shared desire for a change in government in Israel. That's one subject. The subject of their negotiations was a change of government in Israel, ending Israel's war on Gaza and preventing the conflict from spreading elsewhere in the region. Okay, let's just talk about this for a second. Iran hates Israel, and the United States of America is going to have a conversation with Iran, which, by the way, Iran, the leaders of Iran, not only hate Israel, they hate the United States of America. But the United States of America is going to have a conversation in how to help Iran choose to have regime change in Israel. They're also going to talk to Iran about ending the war in Gaza, even though the Iranians started the war in Gaza, and even though Iranians launched a full-scale attack on Israel. This is happening, folks. This is crazy. And then the third thing they want to do is prevent the conflict from spreading elsewhere in the region. I have news for you. It has spread elsewhere in the region, yet the United States of America wants to continue to have a conversation with the people that are spreading it. They're spreading it through Yemen. They're spreading it through the Houthis in Yemen. They're spreading it through Hamas. They're spreading it through Hezbollah in Lebanon. Folks, these people are doing all of it, and the United States of America is entering into a discussion with them. This is evil. This is completely just wicked. An analyst close to the Iranian ruling establishment suggested to MEE that the talks also seem to have served as a way of establishing a ceasefire between the U.S. on one side and Iran and its allies on the other. What a crazy, insane way of thinking. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. Okay? This is nuts. The article goes on to say, since the October 7th Hamas-led attack on Israel, which, by the way, it's not Hamas-led, it's actually Iran-led, but let's just go on. Since the October 7th Hamas-led attack on Israel and subsequent war on Gaza, Iranian allies such as Yemen's Houthi movement, and they're calling it a Houthi movement, folks, a Houthi movement. They're a terrorist organization, officially known as Ansar Allah, and Iraqi paramilitaries have staged attacks on U.S. targets in the region. Think about the significance of that, folks. Think about that. The article goes on to say Iranian drones and missiles were also shot down by U.S. forces in April when Iran staged a massive attack on Israel in response to the killing of the Republican Guard commanders in Iran's consulate in Damascus. It wasn't Iran's consulate. It was the building next to the consulate. It was the Quds building. Well, I'm telling you, this stuff is so ridiculous. The analyst believes there may have also been discussions on Iran's nuclear program and easing oil sanctions. Of course there are. This is the Biden regime. Of course they're going to be friendly to our enemies. It's absolutely ridiculous. Just insane. It's absolutely insane. The JCPOA, in which Iran curbed its nuclear development program in return for sanctions relief, collapsed after the Trump administration unilaterally withdrew the United States from it in 2018. I have news for you. It did not collapse when Trump unilaterally removed itself from the JCPOA. It collapsed the very moment it was signed. It collapsed the very moment it was created. However, last year, Washington and Tehran reached a prisoner exchange deal that included the U.S. handing over $6 billion in confiscated oil revenues. $6 billion. $6 billion. Folks, this is the ridiculousness of the United States of America. Let me tell you, I don't have to go on to read the rest of this article because it's absolutely crazy. But let me just simply say this. Let me say that now they are saying that they are not going to continue on these discussions until a new leader is actually elected, right? A new leader that replaces Raisi. And of course, they finalize some of the appointees of Khomeini and so on and so forth. But let me just explain how absolutely absurd and obscene all of this is. This is crazy because what we are doing is we are solidifying the position of Iran in the region, and we are completely delegitimizing Israel. We're completely throwing them away. We're telling them, in essence, that we don't care about them and we're not concerned about their safety. And we are continuing to open the doors for terrorist activity to take place so that these people can find a launching pad to create demands based on circumstances that they completely created. This is absolutely insane. Let me read a portion of this. It says this. It says, following Raisi's death, Iran needs to hold a presidential election within 50 days, and it is unlikely that major foreign policy decisions will be taken during this period of uncertainty. U.S. presidential elections are meanwhile due in November. Here's the quote, right? It says this: given this situation, we should accept disruptions and a halt in negotiations with the Americans. This is an analyst that's talking about this, right? He goes on to say, since both the president and the foreign minister have passed away and an election is due soon, negotiations will likely be delayed until after the election, similar to what happened during the 2021 presidential race when talks were put on hold until after the election. By the way, the 2021 presidential race and the race for the presidency that existed in the United States of America and what happened when Raisi came in office and all of those things were all delayed because everybody knew that depending on what president was in office would greatly determine how any negotiations would be held, if they were held at all. And if President Trump would have stayed in office, then Iran easily would have given up the position that they were in and would have literally had their teeth taken out of their mouth so that their bark would only be heard instead of having no bite. But the reality of it is the Biden regime continues to put the United States of America in a terrible position by not supporting Israel and by allowing Israel to be put in a place of vulnerability, which, by the way, they're not going to lose. Let me just say this one more time. They are not going to lose. I want to just sort of close off this thought by reading to you a passage that everybody should know. Let me read Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 31. I'm going to read this to you, and it's a few verses, but it's really important, and I want you to think on the words that I'm actually reading because it's critical. This is God making a covenant with Israel, a new covenant. Look what he says. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Verse 32, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was an husband to them, saith the Lord. Verse 33, but this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord, for I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. So let's focus on verse 35 and 36 here, because this is where it really is important, right? Thus saith the Lord, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord of hosts is his name. Verse 36, if those ordinances depart from before me, saith the Lord, then the seed of Israel shall also cease from being a nation before me forever. Think about that for a second. Think about the significance of that. If the sun, the moon, and the stars are gone, if the ordinances of the sun and the moon and the stars are gone, then I'll cut off Israel, which means, look up. Do you see the sun? Do you see the moon? Do you see the stars? God's not cutting off Israel, folks. Israel's here to stay. So if you want to get it wrong, you want to bet against history, well, you're done. Israel won't be. We need to pay attention to this, folks. We need to teach this to our children and our children's children. This is significant and this is important, and we need to wake up. It's critical. God bless you.